Hey everyone, welcome to the live channel. I'm so excited to be talking to Sinem today, who's like one of the best writers on Medium. I'm sure you've all seen her stuff in Medium's most popular list. And I'm just thrilled to be able to talk to her and get some answers to some of the successful work that she's been doing on her whole Medium journey. She's kind of like where everyone wants to be right now. And the thing that I find most amazing about what you've done, Sinem, is like everyone talks about how there's an element of luck, and I do think it does play a role, but you started, like, you did the work and you didn't really see yourself going anywhere, and then you really analyzed what you were doing, what you needed to be doing to be successful, and then completely turned it around. Like you didn't have that instant amazing first month on Medium like a lot of popular writers do. So I'm just really excited to kind of dig into that. And for anyone joining the audience now, I'll be doing kind of like 20 to 30 minutes of questions, and then I'll be opening up to the audience if you want to ask Sinem your own questions and find out how she does what she does. She's going to share the magic with us. So yeah, Sinem, tell me a little bit about, like, how did you even find Medium, like your whole journey?
Yeah, thanks for having me. First of all, nice to talk to you again. Really cool talking to you, as you've also been one of the people we followed on YouTube when I decided to dig deeper into Medium. So it's cool to have a conversation now. As you said, I started pretty much 2 years ago, coincidentally. Like, I never thought of being a writer or starting a blog. So it was just my boyfriend telling me that he watched a video of a guy talking about Medium and that it just exists. And I was like, okay, that sounds cool. And at that time, I've already been an entrepreneur. So I've been hosting personal development workshops. I had a lot of content in my mind, and I had a lot of content that I was teaching in workshops and seminars, also creating online courses. And I was just convinced that there was something I could share. So I published my first post like within 3 hours or something
of joining the platform.
So bad. Yeah.
Wow.
So
I just type something up and you're like, done, publishing, I'm ready.
Yeah, it was, I mean, looking back, it was pretty courageous because I didn't read anything. I just signed up and published, and I didn't think that anyone would see it. And back then it was pretty exciting to have like 10 views or 10 people reading something. So
yeah, it's a good feeling.
That's actually how it started. And even though I never dreamed of being a writer like many people do, I deeply enjoyed that process, and it was so different than everything else that I was doing. So back then I was studying, I was doing an internship, I was hosting the workshops and a lot of other stuff going on. And writing was just something that felt as if I had full control over what I was doing, because everything else was connected to other people, to a team, to whatever. And that's basically how it started. And then, as you mentioned, I just tried for more than 1.5 years, not really taking it seriously, but publishing every now and then, until I decided to actually take it seriously. So that was kind of the turning point at the beginning of this year.
Yeah, so what changed? Like, what was the realization that made you think, okay, I have to change things? And then, get into like, what did you change? Like, what were the pivot points?
So until January this year, my entire business was basically in German. So I was hosting workshops in German. I published a German book last year. And then at the end of 2019, I asked myself how I want to keep going in 2020. So I asked myself, how do I want to make money? How do I want to spend my time? And I realized that writing itself was something that I enjoyed doing a lot. And I also realized that I want to do less seminars and workshops, and be more location independent, work more online. So that was something that I was already doing, but I realized that I wanted to have that component much more in my life. And I realized that Medium was one of the things that I most enjoyed, even back then, even though I didn't make much money here. So that was kind of the tipping point. And I just realized that I could turn it into a profitable project. And it actually happened quite fast because it was at the end of December that I made the decision, and I already had a few good performing posts that I published like mid-December. And then starting 1st of January, I just published every day or almost every day.
Wow.
For 6 months.
I mean, here we are. So clearly you did something amazing. So yeah, talk to me a little bit about what you changed, because I kind of went through a similar path myself. I joined 2 years ago, for those of you who are watching this and don't know. And yeah, I wrote every day, and looking at some of my earlier stuff, it was so bad. I was writing just to like push stuff out there.
Yeah.
And clearly it wasn't very good. And like nobody was really that interested in reading it. So that was what kind of made me like, I was looking at what was popular on Medium, and I was looking at what I was writing, and I was like, I know I can write about things that are interesting to me, but also that my audience is interested in. And that's kind of when I started to tweak my titles more and tweak my interests more. So I'd love to hear, like, what did you change about your writing style? Like, was it gradual? Was it sudden? What were the sort of main changes that you found yourself making?
I guess I changed a lot over the 1.5 years. Even though I didn't work, because I've been reading a lot of stuff from people who were way ahead of me. So I've been reading a lot of how to succeed on Medium type of articles. And I honestly feel like 2 years earlier or 2 years ago, the stuff was more valuable than it is right now, because right now everybody is writing how to succeed on Medium type of articles, even though they don't succeed themselves.
Yeah.
And back then, you just had a few big players who basically either shared their insights or not, but what they shared was of value. And if you look at my first articles, they are so bad. Like, everything changed over the past 2 years. But as you mentioned, headlines, or basically how to structure a post and how to write for people instead of just writing a journal type of entry, like everything. So it was like I started from the very bottom, and I had a lot of room for improvement. So I guess everything changed, and I learned most of it through reading articles, not only the how-to articles of how to succeed on Medium, but like so many self-improvement articles. I learned a lot of the stuff that I taught in my workshops also from Medium writers. So I got a good feeling of what works and how the big players are doing it.
So it sounds like the main factors that sort of led to you not changing your style, but refining it in order to provide more value for the people who were reading your work, was you focus more on providing value on not just writing journal entries, which I have been guilty of, so I know what that's like, but also just like working on how to structure what you're trying to say in a way that makes people interested, that is written in a way that they're going to actually read it and be like, this is going to change my life in some kind of small way or big way. And the way you did that was by reading the How to Be Successful on Medium posts, the kind of, I know exactly what you mean, the older era of writers who were successful right from the start and weren't writing like, it's my 3rd day on Medium, here's what I've learned, kind of stuff. But no shame to those writers. We all have to start. And then also, like, obviously your main niche is helping people improve themselves. So it makes total sense that that's where you would focus most of your reading energy. So do you think that it was like reading the work of others, more successful writers, like perhaps better writers, kind of got you to where you are today, like kind of writing on their backs? Not writing on their backs, that's the bad way to put it, like learning from what they do.
Definitely. I mean, and they also learn from others. Like, people don't wanna admit or like accept the fact that we all learn from each other, but like nobody is kind of redefining the rules here. The whole like blogging world, or what people want to read on a blog, probably didn't change for the past few years, because a good blog post, the way it is structured, the way headlines work, that's kind of stuff that has been working for a few years now, since blogging basically evolved, and the basic rules are applying on Medium as well. Yeah. And even though changes are happening all the time, you still can learn a lot by just looking around and being aware of what works.
Yeah, I know my like number one most successful story I've ever written was it was a listicle and it was styled after, oh, what's his name? Stephen, the guy who wrote like 7 Habits of Highly Influential People. What's the author's name? Gone from my mind. This is so embarrassing. Anyway, I styled it after his book because I see like that's exactly what people want. Like exactly like you say, that was written so many decades ago and it's still valuable. That format is still useful to people. I kind of personally, I struggled with that. I was like, I'm better than that. But it took me a long time to realize there's no like better or worse form of writing. Like I can just write listicles, give information in a way that people want to read it, and that's totally fine. Which is, yeah, it sounds like it was slightly similar for you.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to mention a lot of people struggle with that, as you mentioned, like not wanting to write listicles. I guess the key question is, what's your main goal? So why are you writing? And for me, it's clear that I'm an entrepreneur in the first place. I want to reach people. I want to inspire people. I want them to take action. Writing is one way of doing that. Like if I would be better doing podcasts or videos or whatever, I would probably be doing that. But writing is what worked for me, what I spent most time and energy on. So that's the platform that I'm using. And the question is, why are you doing what you're doing? If you want to reach people and educate people, if you reach 100,000 people through a listicle, but only 100 through a non-listicle, you need to basically ask yourself if it's worth writing non-listicles and reaching way less people and impacting way less lives. So that's kind of the debate you basically have to be aware of as a writer, content creator, whatever you call yourself.
That's such a good way to look at it. Like I wish I'd met you 2 years ago and you had told me that then, because back then I was so snobby about the kind of writing I did, and I wish you had been able to be like, don't be snobby, just write in a way that people like are interested in reading. But this is so interesting. I'm glad you brought this up because I know aside from writing on Medium, you have a whole other super successful business. And I was interested to hear, like, how did that start? Was that done alongside Medium? Did the two kind of like feed into each other? Like, what was the whole path with that?
Well, as I mentioned, I've already had that personal development business before starting on Medium at all. The only change that we made at the beginning of this year is turning it all into English. So we've been creating a lot of German content. And as I said, we published a German book last year, which now looking back was kind of a waste of time other than just us learning how to do it. But when we realized that we can reach so many people through Medium, we just changed to English. And honestly, with COVID and kind of all the lockdown stuff, it was the right decision anyway, because we now can work fully like remote and on a digital basis rather than hosting in-person workshops, which we still love to do, but it's just not possible right now. So it's like we set up Personal Growth Base in March, I guess. So it was basically taking everything that we've already done in German and tweaking it to English, republishing content that I've been creating for Medium, and worked pretty well so far.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So yeah, you already had it, but then the start of this year, you saw that you had like a huge potential audience on Medium and started tailoring it more towards, well, not tailoring, just writing in English to reach those audiences, which is really cool because I can only write in one language. So it's really cool to hear that, yeah, you can write in possibly more than two. Yeah, so, okay, if there wasn't a pandemic happening, which there is, unfortunately, but if there wasn't, how on earth do you balance like your business, your writing on Medium, and presumably you have some kind of a social life too?
One of the advantages that I have is probably that I'm running my business with my boyfriend. So like a lot of working time is also quality time for us. So we love what we do, and which is probably kind of the second secret, because I really love what I do day in and day out. So I obviously have to get some stuff done that I don't enjoy, but like, I don't know, 85% of what I'm doing is stuff that I really love.
Yeah.
And then what I definitely got really good at over the past 3 years is saying no to certain opportunities, and to stuff that just wastes my time, and instead focusing on the stuff that really leads to results in one way or the other, no matter if that means business results or just me feeling better, me having a higher quality of life, and just focusing on the things that really matter. Like I don't watch a lot of TV. I barely watch TV. I don't read the news. I feel like I'm filling my time with stuff that really matters to me. Of course, I'm scrolling through social media from time to time throughout my day, but I feel like that's like such a small amount of time that it doesn't really impact my work or my productivity.
Right.
So
yeah, I downloaded TikTok. For anybody who doesn't know, President Trump threatened to ban TikTok from app stores today. So I was like, all right, better get on the bandwagon as soon as I can, just in case it goes for good. And I had to almost immediately delete it because I spent like 20 minutes straight just scrolling on my phone, getting nothing else done. So I was like, this is way too dangerous, which is, difficult to balance that with like actually getting work done, especially if you're also trying to do it with some kind of self-care or like looking after yourself along with running a business. So I totally get that you can't necessarily watch TV all the time. So I have been alluding especially from the start of the video that I've seen your name and your articles pop up on when you log on to Medium. There's like a list of the top 5 articles that are most viewed at the time on the platform, and I think you had like more than one, right? I know there was a list of the books that you recommended, and then what were the other ones?
I guess it was one quote type of article, maybe even 2 of them, and I guess one morning routine.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I love that one. That was really good. Yeah. So okay, if you were to start completely over from scratch and your goal was to get on Medium's list like tomorrow, what tips would you give yourself? Like if you didn't have an existing audience, you didn't have a relationship with any of the publication editors, like what would be your top 3 tips to write a story that would get on Medium's popular list? Because obviously you know how to do it. It's happened so many times.
Trying to eliminate anything that isn't of value to the reader, like all the filler words and filler sentences or even paragraphs. Like when I edit my articles, it's mostly like cutting off words, sentences, because like the way we talk, we use so many filler words that could be eliminated in writing, and you need to eliminate those because, I mean, you mentioned TikTok, where people have a really short attention span of, I don't know, not even a second if you scroll through the home feed. But it's the same on Medium, so that people have so many different articles they could potentially read. If you start talking nonsense, or if you start being redundant or repetitive, they will just skip. And that's something that's really hard if you didn't get used to it, because we love talking and writing about ourselves, but it's not often that the stories we tell are so interesting that people want to read them. And that's something that you just need to realize over time, and then adapt the language to focus more on the reader than writing what you want to write.
That was one of the hardest lessons for me, was like, I'm not Michelle Obama. I can't just put anything on Medium and assume that people are going to be interested in reading it. Like I have to constantly be tweaking to make sure that what I'm writing is actually good and actually what people are interested in reading. So that's fantastic advice. I wonder, how do you do that? Like, how do you decide what to trim? Do you read it aloud? Do you have any other tools that you rely on?
A lot of it is just gut feeling. Of course, I spend a lot of time on the home feed or in my Facebook group, where I'm basically aware of trends, but I feel like if you're too much focusing on trends, you're most of the time too late. I don't write trendy stuff at all. So right now my content is totally evergreen. and I'm consuming a lot of content. So I'm reading every day, I'm watching videos, I'm listening to podcasts, and I'm coming up with so many ideas every day. And then I just validate whether one could be a good fit for a potential publication, or whether there is something I never wrote at all. So today, for example, I had 2 headline ideas because I watched a video while I was working out, and then I told it to my boyfriend, and then he came up with an idea that was even better. And now I'm so excited to write that article, actually. So I'm maybe gonna do a night shift today and write it out. But it's
That's so cool.
kind of like, and most of, like, you know that yourself, we never know whether an article will go viral or not. Like, none of us know. Even if you had like 50 viral articles, you can never say for sure whether an article will perform well or not. But sometimes you just have a good feeling, and I guess relying on that gut feeling combined with some data that you can rely on, maybe looking at your own stats or doing a bit of analysis from other people's articles, that's kind of the way that worked for me in the past months.
Right. That's so interesting, because I've been kind of doing the opposite. Like I had one very trendy in the moment article do really well. So I'm like, maybe that's what the people want, and that's what I have to give them. So it's really interesting to hear that you're relying more on like an evergreen strategy, but still picking for those of you who wanted to see my cat, she just pushed her way inside. She hates closed doors, like they offend her personally. Where was I talking about more important things? So it's really cool to hear that, like, you consume content, you wait for something that's like really exciting, bounce it around with your focus group, which is your boyfriend. Amazing. Wish my boyfriend's with me. Oh, I've got my cat focus group though, who always gives me go away excellent feedback. But okay, I think she's gone now. But I'd love to hear more about like your process. So you come up with an idea, you get a little bit of immediate feedback from Philip, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I've seen him in the chat. And then, so how do you develop it into a story from there? Like, do you immediately just start drafting out bullet points, or do you just sort of put it all onto a page and edit from there?
Most of the time it depends on the topic, but I usually look either if I have written something similar in the past, if there is like a paragraph that is in one of my past articles, and then I scroll through Medium itself. Like, I check out if there is a similar headline, if it's a recent one, so that I don't publish something that was published just recently. I check out whether something similar was performing well in the past on Medium or on any other platform. Also on YouTube is a great place to look for like whether people are interested in getting an answer to a question.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I never thought of using YouTube as like a sort of feedback tool.
And now what I started doing in the past few weeks is also using Quora, for example, and seeing what kind of questions people have and what kind of answers they give. So you can actually do a lot of research, and first to figure out whether people are interested in that topic, and then also to get ideas about what you want to write about. Because most of my articles are based on, like, I just write what I have in my mind. So I don't do tons of research for one specific article. I do research for particular parts when I need data or when I want to rely on statistics on research and stuff like that. But I do look at what kind of questions and answers people gave in the past.
For those of you who don't know, there's this guy called Nick Goka, who writes on Medium. He's also like an amazing writer. And I saw one of my very favorite posts from him was like how to find out who's the smartest person in the room using 2 questions. It was a very snappy version of that for his title. And I read it, and he got the idea from a Quora post, and I was like so inspired by that. So that's actually when I started actually looking more on Quora to find ideas of both what people were asking about, and the amount of cool stuff on Quora is staggering. Like, there's so many interesting factoids, and just like, I need to be better about managing my time, because I've been sucked into one too many rabbit holes recently where I just like start scrolling instead of looking for writing ideas. But so One thing a lot of people ask me about, and this, if you're not okay with it, that's totally cool, but I would love to know what your top earning month on Medium was, if that's something you're okay with sharing.
It was July, so 2 months ago, 1.5 months ago. Yeah. So July was the first time I made more than $10,000 in a single month.
Sorry, that's amazing.
Which was kind of the biggest goal I had since I started in January. So that was a huge milestone, and it was a big relief to achieve that. So that was just 1.5 months ago. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Congratulations. 10K writing on Medium. I hope everyone who's watching this is like taking notes. It's possible because you did it in 6 months. Like, what did you make in December of last year, if you don't mind me asking? If you remember.
December was already high because I started writing like mid-December, and I wrote a bunch of articles because I've been on holidays. Mm-hmm. December was like $300, but December was the highest ever that I had since I started. So like November was probably $70 or something like that.
Oh my God. I can't. That's so amazing that you went from $300, which is already, like you said, like such a good amount of money for writing, all the way to 10,000 in July. That's like, I just can't get over that. I know people write for love, not money, but the money is certainly a good benefit. That's so cool. Yeah, so I do want to leave time for people to ask questions, but I also have a lot of questions I want to ask, so I'll try to be quick about them. Do you have any sort of concrete action items for people who are like you, like struggling to make it big? They know that they have value to provide, but just not sure what they need to change to make it on Medium's most popular list, potentially 4 times in a year.
I guess the most important is what we talked about, like write for a reader, not for you or not for other writers. Like what I see in Facebook groups, also in our Facebook group, is a lot of people, when they start out on Medium, they don't understand that Medium has like thousands of writers, but millions of readers, and that you need to write for those readers who are not interested in making money on Medium or succeeding as a writer, because these people are like in other careers, in other jobs, and you can write for all these millions of people, which is where you have much more potential than just writing for all the other writers and then getting claps from the other writers. And then I guess if you realize that you are making mistakes and that you're not on the right path, that's already a big step, because I feel like most people think that they are doing everything correctly, and then they are complaining about not getting curated or not having many views. So if that's you, so when I ask you what's your problem on Medium and you tell me it's the curators, that's a good sign that there's probably a few things that you don't know yet, and that you should probably talk to a few people who are ahead of you, or try to like just read more of their stuff and compare it to yours. Yeah, because there are a lot of similarities, and I mean, Medium always like tries to communicate that they don't want to have a platform full of the same stories and the same type of writing, but there are certain rules. And if you've been doing that for a long time, and if you've published like tens of articles and you're not seeing any changes in your stats, there's probably a few things that you're missing out.
Yeah, I always, I think it might have been Tim Denning who actually, I saw this in one of his recent articles, I think. He was saying one of the reasons he's so successful on Medium is whenever he writes something, he keeps in mind what Medium is trying to achieve, which is to show good writing to people who are interested in reading about those topics. And if you keep that in mind as you're trying to create good content, it's much easier to meet the mark. And like, at least for myself, I've been trying to drastically improve this past year myself, and that's definitely helped me go a long way. Last question. Yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, just also to keep that in mind with publications. Like a lot of people complain about not getting accepted into a publication, and they like the only goal of publications is to publish good stuff so that they can get more views and that they can grow the publication. That's basically the only rule that exists. Like, they want good staff that can potentially perform well. And keeping that in mind is the basic. And if you get rejected by a publication, it doesn't need to mean that the piece was bad. It probably just wasn't a fit for the publication. But if you keep that in mind, that they need to be in accordance with certain rules and also grow the publication, then you can act accordingly and also make the tweaks that might result in changes.
Yeah, I submitted a piece to Better Marketing a couple days ago and it got rejected. And that was like, I was wounded. I was like, Nick, how could you? My writing. And I asked him for feedback and he was like, what was the point of this story? And I was like, the point is obviously, and then I reread it and I was like, oh yeah, there's no takeaway here. There's no conclusion. That's what's missing here. So I was glad to get that reminder that hopefully that helps. I know the sting of rejection is very real. So maybe it's helpful to know that even at the upper echelons of Medium society, we still get rejected and it hurts just as much. But yeah, I was guilty of forgetting that I can't just push whatever I want into whatever publication I want. I have to actually do good writing to do that. All right, I'm going to wrap it up for my questions. I've got two questions left. So obviously the past, what month are we in? September. 9 months have been transformative for your journey on Medium. Where do you see the next year taking you?
Well, good question. So my plan is to keep going like I did in the past months. I slowed a bit down right now in my writing, quantity-wise, because I'm working on so many other projects right now and launching a few products. So until the end of the year, I'll probably publish less than the average 30 pieces that I published for the first 6 months.
Yeah.
But the question for me is how Medium itself will evolve. I will stay on the game as long as it's so much fun and rewarding in many different ways. I love the connections that I made on Medium in the past months. I love the community that I've built. I'm getting so many email subscribers through Medium, not to talk about the monetary benefit. It's just fun right now. And I will stay there as long as I can write and reach people. But I don't have specific smart goals Medium wise. So I will just going and see where the journey will take me.
Yeah, you're right. It is hard to predict what's going to happen to Medium. It seems like every 6 months they're like, we're gonna change everything just for fun, just to see what happens, and then you just kind of have to refigure out how everything works. Okay, my final question is how, if people want to see more of you aside from this video, where can they find your work? Obviously Medium, but and I can post your website, Personal Growth Base, in the video description. Where else can people find you?
If you're interested in growing on Medium, you are invited to join my Facebook group. It's the Medium Writing Academy Writers Mastermind group, because I also have a program where I basically teach everything that I did in the past 6 or 9 months now, step by step. And you can check that out if you just type mediumwritingacademy.com. So that's where you will find everything about the program. And yeah, joining the Facebook group, that's super precious. We have a lot of highly engaged, motivated people there. So it's no clap for clap threads. It's really supporting each other, answering questions. I'm also going live and engaging with the group. So highly welcome to join there.
Yeah, I can. I'm part of the group, and it's my. I don't want to play favorites. It's such a good group for Medium writers because it's actually valuable. There's no negativity. It's just all nice, useful, actionable, supportive people wanting to be helpful and friendly for each other. So it's really, really nice. Yeah, I'll post that link in the video description as well. And now I'm going to start posting some questions. I just learned I can do this here. I can add a comment from Wandy Way, wants to know, what made you press enter in your first article? Where is the courage to try again if you fail?
What made me press is that I didn't believe that anyone would see that anyway. So was probably a bit of a different time. But even now, if you're starting from, if you're starting at 0, nobody will see your first posts anyway, or not a lot of people, so you don't have much to lose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just the desire to just start, nobody's going to be taking it too seriously on the first try.
You will, like, you could read 100 how to succeed on Medium type of posts, and you will not understand how to do it unless you really do it.
Yeah.
Like, you will not understand how to format a story or how to write headlines if you don't do it. There is no way to learn it just by watching videos or reading articles about it.
Yeah. Let's see. Alice White wants to know, is it necessary to publish with a big publication for your post to succeed these days? I've got my own answer to this, but I would love to hear what you think.
I wouldn't say it's necessary. It's helpful to publish with big publications, and it's what I would advise anyone to do if you're just starting out. However, it depends on what you're writing. Like in the whole self-improvement niche, it's definitely beneficial. If you're writing about something that is way more niche, it's different. Like it's easier to get curated in more niche topics, for example, than in typical self-improvement. So it highly depends on the niche and the topic, in my opinion. In general, I would say yes, because they have an audience that could potentially see your stuff, but it's not like a general answer that fits everyone's case.
Yeah, I personally have found that more than the size of the publication, it's exactly as you say, it's the fit of the readers. So, for example, I published 2 similar-ish stories about like my freelancing journal, and I put one in Entrepreneur's Handbook, and I put another in the Postgrad Survival Guide a couple months apart. And the one in Postgrad Survival Guide did like orders of magnitude better than the one in Entrepreneur's Handbook. Not because it's not a great pub, it's just the audience of that publication wasn't really interested in what I do to be like kind of bit successful a little bit in my freelancing career. They want to see like stuff from Elon Musk, Bill Gates, that kind of more entrepreneurial spirit. And that is such a crucial lesson. Just pick the publication that has the audience that's most interested in your story, not like the biggest one, not the most medium friendly one, whatever. Pick the one that's got an engaged audience for your topic.
Yeah. And that's also what we talked about a minute ago. Like particularly for big publications, if the story is not a fit for the audience, you will have a harder time to pitch the editor or convince them that it's worth publishing.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Amna Rizvi wants to know, advice for those who fail to get curation despite following all the curation guidelines. This is a tough one. I'm gonna punt that over to you.
Maybe like I would always start at the top of the story. Like, what's the headline? Is your headline too clickbaity, for example? That's something Medium doesn't want. I'm not sure if that's inside the curation guidelines now. Look at highly popular posts and how their intros look like, and compare it to your intros. Like maybe you have like a huge paragraph, and you'll probably realize that that's not the case with most really well-performing articles. So imagine your article next to an article that on a similar topic in best case, and try to go through it, just scan, and you will probably also see like visual differences in how the article looks like. And again, this is such a big question that cannot be answered in just a few sentences, but that's also part of what I teach inside the Medium Writing Academy. I basically teach everything that I did, which led to a high curation rate in general. And you have to be careful in so many different ways. Like there's so much stuff that could lead to not getting curated. I don't know if you have a simpler answer to that, but I don't think that there is.
No, I love curation and I hate it at the same time. I love it because I think it's what makes Medium really special. That's the algorithm that shows me my homepage every morning when I check it out, and it's filled with things that I know I'm going to like because curation, I trust the process. But on the other hand, I know how frustrating it is when I pour my heart and soul into something and it doesn't get curated, and sometimes I don't know why. Sometimes it's formatted exactly the same as another story that did get curated, and I'm like, well, what changed here? But I think for me, like my advice would be just to check out the topic pages, so like medium.com /topic / the topic that you're interested in, because those are all the stories that Medium is curating in that subject. And that's, I mean, they're telling you what they're looking for in the guidelines, but also in the actual examples of what they're curating. But yeah, there's no easy answer, unfortunately. But yeah, I think like my last piece of advice there would just be not to take it too personally, because sometimes they're human and it happens. And yeah, just got to keep trying. I saw a good question earlier. Where was it? There are so many good questions. Okay, I'm gonna pick one. Zaki Rana wants to know, how much of your success has been luck and how much is a systematic method? Can it be that someone who keeps writing genuinely good articles doesn't get successful just from bad luck? I love this question, because this is something I'm always kind of on the fence about. So I would love to hear, what's your take?
I don't believe that someone who's writing genuinely good stuff and doing everything correctly won't, like, how do you define success? But I don't believe that they will not find success because of bad luck. Mm-hmm. It's like everything you do, as long as you are exposed to an algorithm, of course, it's some sort of luck. But did you ever see a really bad piece like performing really well? Like I didn't. And as I said, I'm on Medium for 2 years now, and I didn't see anyone who was doing a good job and didn't reap the rewards. Like, again, how do you define success? Is 2K per month successful, or do you aim for the 30K? That's like, what are your goals? But for me, it was a really systematic approach. Like I analyzed a lot. I'm analyzing a lot of my own data of other writers. Mm-hmm. And I always try to combine that systematic approach to my gut feeling of what I believe will perform well. So I don't believe that you will not succeed if you do everything correctly just because you have bad luck. So I guess that applies to everything in life. I mean, sometimes you just have to keep going for a little longer. And if you think that you have been doing a good job for months and didn't succeed, it's probably time to ask someone else if what you're doing is really good in a Medium way, because a lot of people think they are good writers, but being a good writer and being successful on Medium is so different. Like it's totally two different worlds.
Yeah, I found personally, when I first started, I got lucky my first month. I wrote something that today wouldn't be curated. It was like a very short listicle, not even any content under the bullet items. It was just bullet points about my cat. I published it right when curation started, and it took off. That was my first month on Medium. No, my second month, and I earned like $500 that month. And I mean, I have to hope that it was good writing, because it did get curated in humor and people seemed to enjoy it. But it was also, for me, luck in that the timing, like if I'd done it a month later, maybe that wouldn't have happened and I would have given up, because I wouldn't have seen like that first $500 month come in for me. But the more I work, the longer I'm on Medium, the less I think luck has to do with it. Because before I was so bitter, I'd see I'd see something do really well and I'd be like, oh, why isn't that me? But then I started wondering, like, well, why isn't that me? What are they doing that I'm not doing? And how can I start to do that in a way that makes me successful, but without losing my writing voice? And the further I go on that path, the more I believe it is, like you say, it's a systematic approach, combined with hard work and talent. And sometimes luck is involved in timing, but really it's the hard work. I love that question. Megan Harvey wants to know, do you remember your first ever post? I remember mine. What was yours?
It's awful. It's still live actually, so I didn't delete. I actually wrote an article about why I didn't delete it, and at some point I did some edits, so it's not as horrible as it was initially, but it's still live. I can send the link later.
I would love that. I'll post my first one too, because my first one was also awful. Sometimes I go back and look at it just to remind myself how far I've come. Because it was so bad. It was like it was written the way I thought blog posts were supposed to be written, which was like, do you like reading about cats? Then you should follow my blog. I'm about cats. Seriously, that's what the whole blog post was about. It was like my intro, my hello world, I'm talking about cats blog post. So I still write about my cats, but that was the very first one, and I deleted a lot of my older stuff, but that very first one is still up there to remind me. Yeah, if you can send me that link, I would love to read it. Let's see. Balos Cabros Farming, who sounds like a goat farmer from the name and from the picture, wants to know, how can I be successful in Medium because my posts are not going viral? Yeah, this is again a kind of similar questions to the ones we've been seeing. What are your like top 3 tips for this?
The mistake that I see most often is headlines. If there are so many different approaches to headlines, but a lot of pro bloggers or also copywriters, if you write copy for a sales page and stuff, say that you should be writing, like if you spend an hour writing an article, you should spend an hour on the headline. And it's where like most people spend a lot of time on their post, and when they feel like the post is ready, they just write a headline and hit publish. And if the headline is not good, nobody will click on it, so you have no chance of convincing your reader, even if the post itself would be good. So that's the most common thing I see. So whenever somebody asks me, hey, could you check out my profile, which I don't do too often right now, but if I check the profile out, in like 99% of all cases, the first thing I can say is your headline sucks. Or at least the last 10 headlines suck.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any suggestions for like how to improve them? Like it's hard to say without having an individual headline, but any generic advice?
What I like to follow is being pretty specific, like tell the reader what they can expect from the post. Because if you tell them what they can expect, and if you really deliver on what they expect, you're building a good relationship.
Yeah, and I'll trust you and hopefully come back and read your next article.
Yeah.
Let's see. Can you see the chat? Do you if you have it, can you pick one?
Oh, there's so many. Let me see. Do you have any favorites?
I like the one posted by Silicon Valley Inspiration Tours saying, would you recommend going back to your articles and improving them? And I have a very specific example where I did this a week ago. I had a post, it was a listicle, and I had high hopes for it. I really thought it was going to go somewhere, and it did absolutely nothing. So I was like, maybe I can still salvage this. And I fixed the headline to be more specific, actually, to your point. And I mean, it didn't go viral or anything, but it did double in the number of views that it was getting a day for a while. So yes, I do tweak my headlines, and it has been successful for me. How about you?
I guess I never did it. And I guess it can make sense, like you said, if it's a really new article and if you have hopes for it and just come up with a better idea. But I wouldn't go back to older posts and change the title. Okay. Like if it's published like weeks or months ago and nobody saw it, I'm pretty sure that changing the title won't lead to any more views. Particularly if it didn't get curated and if it's not in a publication and if it's just self-published and you just change the title, I'm pretty sure that it won't make any change.
Right. Whereas like if something's curated or it's in a publication, Medium will continue to recommend it to people. So there is a chance that fixing something like changing a headline or tightening up your intro will actually make a difference for the sort of long-term performance of the article. Yeah. Amar's got a great one. I interviewed Amar, was it a week ago? Some time ago. Time is very strange right now. So nice to see you again. Wants to know if you would ever write a book. Another book.
Not right now. Like I actually hated the process of writing a book. I love writing articles because it's like every article I finish feels like a small accomplishment, but I didn't like the process of writing a book. I mean, our book is like more than 400 pages, which probably was too much for the first ever book. Like maybe in 5 years or something, or maybe kind of collections of my articles. But let's see, never say never, but it's not something that I'm thinking of right now.
Right, not top of mind. I would love to write a book. I've always wanted to, and I never have. So maybe I'll just continue wanting to write a book without actually doing it personally. Eric Jen's got a great one. How do you keep finding the inspiration to write?
Well, the not so sexy answer, it's my job. The other answer is I have all my article ideas, headline ideas, etc. in a Trello board. And right now I probably have something like 700 ideas that I could write articles out. So that's part of constantly consuming content myself, writing down anything that inspires me, and just having a bigger vision. Like, I know why I'm doing that. And I never lack inspiration. Like, sometimes I lack focus and I'm not as productive as other days, but I never lack inspiration on what to write. My biggest struggle is to choose from the headlines that I think could perform really well, because like I can't write all day long. I have a lot of other stuff to do. That's the bigger problem.
Yeah, I am not quite so organized. I throw everything into the drafts folder on Medium. Whenever I see something, normally for me, because I tend to write about, I think, trendier things that are like happening day to day rather than evergreen stuff. So I spend a lot of time on Twitter, and sometimes I'll see something that's just, it's so exciting. It's so cool and interesting to me that I have to write about it right away. So my inspiration just comes from, like, I guess, genuine enthusiasm for cool stuff I see on the internet, which it's been working out okay for me. I always love to write about that kind of stuff. This is a great one from 1,000 Doves, wanting to know, should a brand new author attempt to get into a publication right away, or self-publish first before seeking approval in a publication?
Again, depends on what you write about, because in certain topics it's just easier to get curated and featured if you self-publish than in others. I guess it's right now it's pretty hard to get curated and a post performing well if you self-publish on a brand new profile. I always recommend going for publications, because it's where, like, you can tap into their audience. You just have an advantage. Your writing is already good enough. They will be happy to feature new writers. If your piece is a fit for them. Again, it's like, if you write about something that is totally new on Medium, you will not find a publication for it.
Yeah, I think a lot of publications, contrary to traditional print media, they don't need you to have a portfolio, because they'll ask you for a draft link of your work. So they'll say, if you want to submit to this publication, send us like a draft link in Medium or a Google Doc or something. So you don't, this is something a lot of people don't realize, is you don't need to have like 3 pieces already self-published. They will judge you just on what you send them. If you're a first-time author, which I think is one of the nicer things about Medium, is I think I saw this earlier, so I couldn't find the question. I was looking for it. Do you need to be like a professional of any kind to get started on Medium? And the answer is no. There's legally and morally nothing stopping you from picking up your computer right now and just typing something and publishing it. All you really need is a desire to share information through the written word, and that's all you need to get started, even to publish in publications. Let's see. Zuli. So Abhidad says, I'm just putting this because I love this small piece of flattery. So thank you so much for that. And I have to share, this is not the first time I've been told this. Okay, done with the flattery and the vanity. Now back on to a more important question. Mia Miguel wants to know, what do you think of Medium's latest update? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I've got conflicting feelings, but
I honestly don't think much about it. I feel like the announcements have been much louder and bigger than the changes will probably be. Like, I mean, if you look at your home feed, it has always been full of stuff of people or publications you followed. So I don't think that the algorithmic change will make that much of a difference.
That's so interesting. I find personally on my homepage, I see things from people and public. Like I see a ton of stuff from Lessons of History that I don't follow the publication or anybody who writes in it that I know of. So I that's so interesting that you only, like, on your own homepage, you only see publications and people you follow.
Yeah, at least like 99%.
Right.
Like,
Okay.
actually, since the changes were announced, I've been more careful on looking because I follow a lot of people. I've been following a lot of people who just commented and interacted with me, which probably was a mistake. So I have a lot of different stuff on my home feed, but I see that I follow them. So I don't think that there will be much difference in terms of that. And yeah, with the profile pages, we'll see. So it's still in beta. I don't think, like, the question is, how often do people click on your profile, and how they end up on a story is mostly through the homepage.
Mm-hmm.
So again, what's the importance of the profile is the question. But I'm excited to see it. So that's what I think. So I don't think that it's gonna be like massively gonna influence the way we earn or the way people will see our stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll be interested to see what the changes are, because I think I went through I followed like literally thousands of people when I first started on Medium. I was doing follow, unfollow. I don't recommend the strategy for anyone. So I did like a massive purge about a year ago, and I only follow like a handful of people. So that's probably why Medium's like trying to show me stuff from people I don't follow. So it seems like a lot of people are asking about calls to action. Emma asks, would you recommend having an opt-in link for your email list on every post? And does this stop you from being curated?
No, it doesn't stop you from being curated. And I absolutely recommend doing it, because it's the only way how you can build a sustainable business out of Medium, if that's your goal. So for me, that's the goal. If you're just writing for fun, it's not necessary. But if you want to keep doing that for longer than just how long Medium exists, then you definitely need to do that.
Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And it doesn't stop from curation, as long as it's not like a whole paragraph. If it's just like 1 or 2 lines, it's fine. Everybody is doing that, and everybody. I don't think that it's a ban for curation. They also share that openly. So.
Yeah, I think Medium maybe a couple of months ago released some updated guidelines on what they recommend for calls to action. You're not allowed to ask for like claps or shares or money or anything like that. But you are allowed to say like, hey, sign up to my newsletter. I will give you this. I neglected this for a lot of my writing career because I was mostly because I was lazy and I could never find the link when I was publishing. And I was like, whatever, people will find me from my profile. Spoiler alert, they did not. I started doing it, and my email list signups, like, they grew so much just in the week I started doing it. So learn from my mistakes. If you want to build your email list, put it on every post you can. Some publications don't allow that, and that's okay. I mean, that's one of the trade-offs is like, especially the bigger, especially like the more curated, I don't want to use the word curated, the fancy publications don't allow that, but they do have a big and engaged audience. So it's just one of the things that you have to consider. Kevin Lee asks, do you write with a publication in mind, or do you look for a publication after you complete your writing?
It's a combination of both, which is probably easier for me because most of my articles could be a potential fit for different publications, because I'm either writing about personal development or about business. So I am part of many publications, so I have a lot of options. If you are just starting out and if you don't know the publication too well, I would write with the publication in mind. I would like read 5 recent articles of the publication to get a feeling for their tone, for their intros, and then write with them in mind. If you're just starting out and if you've not worked with them yet. For me, it works pretty well to balance it, and sometimes I just decide after a piece is finished. But that's because I have published with most of them like so often.
Right, so you've got the options there, and you already know pretty much what a good fit is for these without having to do a lot of digging. Yeah, Roxana Red asks, what do you think about poetry and fiction on Medium? Do you know successful people who do it?
I don't know. I'm not writing poetry and fiction. I know a few people who do it, but I never dived into understanding it. And also, like in my Medium Writing Academy, I'm solely focusing on nonfiction writing because that's what I can teach. I cannot teach poetry or fiction writing because I have no experience with that. I barely read anything related to that on Medium, and I also don't know the numbers.
Yeah, I have a similar answer. I've seen some types of fiction do well. So I see humor do really well on Medium. I see satire, especially sort of flash fiction and poetry. I just see less of it. I think there is an audience for it there. It's just not as big as the audience of people who are who are interested in like relationship stuff or psychology stuff or self-help topics. So I know, again, I guess like to your points, and it's a question of success. Like if you want to be paid for writing poetry, Medium is a great place for that because you will. If you want to be paid thousands of dollars per month for writing poetry, Medium probably not going to be that place for you. Let's see what else. Rufat wants to know, what is your writing routine?
I usually write, like I'm most productive when I write early in the morning or like until noon or later at night. And I have headphones on, like I listen to some sort of binaural beats, some sort of concentration focus music, close all tabs, close notifications, and yeah, just try to be focused for at least an hour or something, like depending on the piece. If I have to do research, it's less focused and just takes more time than if I can just write it down from what I already have in my mind. But that's what I do. So I always try to write in a really calm space. I'm mostly working from home. I can't really be productive when I work outside. And I'm just trying to create that calm, fresh space before I get started.
Yeah, so this is just my own personal curiosity. On average, including both research and non-research articles, from conceiving of the idea all the way to hitting that publish button or the submit button, how long on average does it take you to write something?
Good question. I feel like it's a bit longer right now because I'm trying a few different things. Probably 3 hours on average. Depending, like there are a few pieces that I can get down in 1.5 hours, and then others that just take longer. Totally depends on the piece. Like if it's something personal and if it's something that I've experienced, then it's just way quicker. Rather than being a listicle that I have a lot of hope in and just try to get it done as good as possible.
Yeah, I find like when I do evergreen content, it does take much more time because like I don't know, I'm sure you do the same thing, but like when I write listicles and I make a point, I always try to back it up with some kind of link that isn't just like, I'm not just making this up. I didn't come up with this on my own. This is actual real scientists have found this, not just me. So yeah, I think those are the ones I personally put the most time into as well. All right. Let's see. This one's we'll do 3 more. This will be number 3 of 3. Okay, 3 more, 2 more after this. Sorry, I can't count. Daniel wants to know, how do you manage your submissions to publications and your personal expectations for those stories? Having so many potential good stories unpublished for weeks makes me crazy. And then the little tongue sticking out emoji.
Keeping the long-term goal in mind. Like I know it can be annoying if you wait for a long time if you think that you've written a great piece, but if it's not timely, it probably won't harm the piece anyway, and it's better to wait for a bigger publication rather than just self-publish. So just focus on the long term. Like what do you want to achieve? Will you be around in a year from now? Then it doesn't matter. Whether it gets published today or next week.
Yeah, so just like focusing on the long term rather than trying to get caught up in like the individual hopes of each individual story. Sinem asks, will you consider learning some tactics from Shelby Church and teach us here? So Sinem, I actually don't know if do you know Shelby Church?
Not really.
She is a very, very popular, super cool YouTuber who interviewed me on YouTube. And as a result, that's kind of how my channel started being successful a couple months ago, was off the back of that, which is awesome. She wanted to know how, what Medium was all about. And she ended up writing a couple stories on there, one of which ended up earning, I want to say like $11,000 or $12,000, probably more by now, but 11,000 at last count. And a month, which is an awesome amount of money for a story. I was so happy for her that she had done that. The reason that article did so well wasn't because she had a huge audience, because she was on Medium, and I don't think a lot of her YouTube audience followed her there. Her tactic was that she wrote it like, how much YouTube paid me for my 1 million viewed video. That was such a cool topic. So few people know what that process is, because so few people have a video that's had that many views. So the interest pool was enormous. So many people want that, but the expert pool was really small. She's one of the very few people who can write intelligently and well about that. And that's why that was her tactic, was just being really good at what she does. So I will continue trying to do that myself, but I don't think I'm going to be able to write anything along those lines anytime soon, just because I haven't reached that level of mastery like Shelby had over that article. That was a really, really cool article to read.
And yeah. I guess there's something that a lot of people get wrong here, because it's like, oh, she wrote one article and earned 11K with one article, and it's just not true, because she doesn't write one article and wrote it down in 2 hours. She put probably years of work into growing her channel and into learning how it all works, and as a result she was able to write that article. It's like saying how I made 6 figures with one launch or within 2 days. It just isn't true, because it's months or years of work that you spent building an email list or building a product. And it's just such a huge misconception, because she probably worked her ass off to gather all that knowledge. So it's well deserved if she finally can monetize that knowledge. Yeah, and that's something a lot of people don't understand if they're not already into the world of online business and making money online. Yeah, she totally put in the legwork. And yeah, from the outside, it's easy to say, oh yeah, she just published something and earned $11,000, in a snap of her fingers. And I think she even had a video which did very well on YouTube about how much YouTube paid her for her 1 million viewed story, or video, not story, obviously, on YouTube. So yeah, like hours, years, just so much effort. And that's it obviously paid off, because she is an absolute expert in what she does. And I think that's we're seeing that on a lot of Medium's sort of popular list right now, is people who are very, very good at what they do, write about it, and people are like, oh, this is so cool and interesting. And that was her secret, and it worked really well for her. All right, I think that I lost count. That was that one, right? Or was that was 2? Let's see. This was the last question. It's a lot of pressure to pick a good one. I'll do another one from Megan Harvey. Do you use social media as a mechanism for promoting your work, and do you feel like it helps? No, I don't. And I also don't recommend it. We do use a lot of, we do use Quora and Pinterest in particular to grow our email list, but we don't link to Medium there. We link to our website, because unless you have a really huge following on any platform, sharing your stuff, just sharing it, won't lead to a significant amount of extra views. And it's for me, it's just not worth doing, because it takes so much more time than you first think. You think oh, okay, I'm gonna share it on LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, and it's just gonna take a couple of minutes. But if you sum it up, it's so time consuming. So I would recommend doing it strategically if you know why you're doing it. So in our case, it's growing the list, not growing the Medium audience. That's why we use certain channels. but I didn't see anyone doing it to get external views to their Medium stuff and it making a really big impact.
Yeah, I've used social media in a couple of instances. I post on Twitter, but when I do, it's because I'm writing a story about someone or something that's happening on Twitter, and often the person or kind of event carries that, and that gets it a lot of momentum. Other than that, I only post it on my newsletter and occasionally in my video YouTube links. That drives a little bit of traffic. That's worth it for me because I'm sort of sustaining my community, but I don't do it for the views because the views are like 10 or maybe 15 if I'm lucky, right? So it's, yeah, like you say, it's not worth the time. If you're writing about something and you think that you can get someone with a wider audience to promote it, I would recommend putting it on social media. But unless you are, then like you say, it's just, you're better off just writing, spending that time writing. So yeah, great question, Megan. Thank you. And with that, I will say thank you so much for your time. This has been so fun and really, really cool to learn about how you're doing all the amazing stuff you're doing. I still don't know how you balance all of it. It's fantastic. Do you have any final tips, any pieces of advice, any big mistakes you would recommend others avoid?
Avoid thinking that you already know everything and doing what you've been doing if it doesn't work. Because
that is a great piece of advice.
Like, it's so easy to think that you're doing everything correctly and just don't see the mistakes that you're making. So yeah, that's probably the most important thing. And yeah, join our Facebook group. It's a really amazing community. And if you are serious about growing your income and audience, you're also welcome to check out the Medium Writing Academy, where I basically teach the whole process that I went through, and where we have right now, I guess, 10 hours of video content where I answer the questions of curation and how to write stuff that is more likely to perform well, because it's so hard to answer that in a few sentences.
Yeah. So definitely check out both the Academy and the Facebook group. Especially if you've been struggling and you want to take the shortcuts, they're right there and you've got all the tools at your disposal. So yeah, I'll post all the links in the video description if I haven't already. And if you got a question that I didn't answer, feel free to post it in the comments after the video. I try to answer every single one of my YouTube comments, which is a lofty goal, but I really do my best. So yeah, and thank you again. This has been really fun and just an incredible opportunity to get to talk to you. So enjoy the rest of your evening. It's 8 p.m. in Vienna, right?
Yeah.
Well, enjoy the last couple hours of your weekend. Thank you again. So cool to talk to you. And yeah, we'll see you all next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.